Gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. Nice to see everybody digitally, and thanks for being on mute to get started. But to make it official, Tyler Zickel here. We've got our manager, Donnie Murphy, ready to do his thing. We got about 30 minutes, and I know, Steve, you got to get going. Actually, Steve E., you got to get going. We got two Steves on here today. So, Steve, we'll get you going first, and then we'll do the rest of us roundtable one question at a time. But first and foremost, would like to introduce the 2021 Vancouver Canadians manager, Donnie Murphy. Donnie, thanks for being here. And if you could just give us a little bit of a background about your journey to joining us in Vancouver, or Vancouver Borough, as we'll call it this season.
Yeah, hey guys. Donnie Murphy, got drafted 2002, played all the way up through 2015, jumped right into coaching immediately after that. I was one of those guys that couldn't sit around and figure out where my career was going, had to stay in the game. I got lucky enough the Blue Jays had some hitting coach opportunities available right away. Did that for 4 years. Decided I think I was more of a manager type personality, so decided to pursue that. Obviously, COVID derailed that right away last year, so I didn't really get a shot to jump into that. Then here we go, trying the managing gig in a crazy year up here where we can't go to Vancouver right now, but we're gonna make the best of our opportunities here down in Hillsborough for sure.
Awesome. Thank you, Donnie. So we're going to go right over to Steve E. from the Vancouver Province, Vancouver Sun. Steve, it looks like you can unmute yourself, I believe. So
there we go.
Get right to it. It's all you.
Thank you, sir. First off, thanks, Skip. What do you like about this group?
Very motivated. I would say, it's a group that definitely took advantage of their downtime at home this past year. You can tell the guys when they got to camp, definitely put in some work. I think it was one of those things where we really weren't sure where guys were leading up to spring training because, everything was through Zoom or phone call. But it was immediately noticeable when they got there, like they definitely made strides in areas that they needed to. And it's definitely a group that gets along, very motivated, and push each other. So it's going to be an exciting group going forward, I think.
For fans, how big a jump is it from short season to high A?
I think it's big. I personally think it's a big jump. I think a lot of short season, you see a lot of the guys just trying to get their feet wet, not really sure what to expect. It's very short, so you kind of let them play and see what their strengths and weaknesses are. Now that they got settled in and they're comfortable where they're at, I think the type of play that you'll see is more fundamentally sound. I think there'll be less errors in terms of mental and physical. I think the game's just cleaner in general. I just think they've had a little bit more experience and they're a little bit more, I'd say advanced where they're at compared to short season.
Style-wise, is there a style we can expect from a Donnie Murphy team?
I would say we play. I would say I'm a grinder. I've always been a grinder. I think that's kind of pushing off on them a little bit. I'm definitely a fundamental guy. We do the little things. We definitely prep that way every day. I just think that from innings 1 to 9, there's going to be no quit. I think we're going to go all the time. So regardless of the outcome, you're going to see a team that's very energized and get after it every day.
Are you thinking about coming back to Vancouver? Are you talking about coming back to here? Is there any sort of? It's strange. It has to be strange.
Yeah, it really is. It's one of those things we would love to because some of us that got to experience it in the past. I mean, the last time I was there was 2002 and I loved it. And guys that just recently played there 2 years ago, they have nothing but positive things to say. Yeah, we want to, but I think that's kind of the thing that we're not really thinking about right now, just because we want to get our feet wet. We want to get the season started. If it does happen, we'll be prepared and ready to go there. But right now, we just want to get going right now because I think everybody's hungry to start the season.
That's awesome. Thanks, Coach. Thanks, Tyler. Thanks, Donnie.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. And thanks for being here and getting those out first things first. All right, for the rest of us, and Steve's got to go take care of some other business here, let's just go one by one down the list. We'll just do a roundtable just to mix it up. So let's lead things off. Mark, Hillsborough News Times.
Yeah, Mark Miller, Hillsborough News Times and Portland Tribune. First of all, welcome to Hillsborough. I know this probably isn't the way that you were planning on starting your season. well south of Vancouver, but we're happy to have you here. Just looking at the schedule, the scheduling for all the minor leagues is very different this year than what we're used to seeing. You sort of got this system where it's going to be pretty reliably 6 days on and then 1 day off. How does that factor into how you're planning on setting up your pitching staff in particular?
Well, I mean, I think even if you take that out, it's gonna be challenging just because we don't even know where some of these guys are. They're still building up workloads right now. Spring training was shorter when it comes to games. There's gonna be a lot of piggybacking early on. I think a couple of our starters got 2 in spring training was 4 innings. So there's a lot of buildup to still happen. We rely on a lot on my pitching coach, a lot of conversations that they're gonna be had on the daily basis. The good thing that's saving us honestly right now is carrying extra players with the extended rosters. It's going to allow us to have more pitching to play with. I think it's just going to be a lot of trial by error early on. I think we have our scheduled starters, but after that, we're going to see what works. I think that's going to take at least the first couple of weeks to figure out, but I think we'll have a good idea going forward after that where guys are, and once they get their pitch counts up and see who meshes well and who follows them. It's hard to commit on that right now just because we haven't played much. So we're just going to see, what pitchers work well with what starters right now and move forward going on with that.
So are you planning on setting up the rotation as a 5-man, 6-man, or that sort of TBD?
It's TBD right now, but right now it's more 5-man. And, it's just giving them a little extra day on that 1 day off.
Mm-hmm.
Mark, if you want to just keep rolling, I think that's all right. We'll just have everybody ask all their questions at once. And then once we get to the very end, if anybody else has any follow-ups, we can just do that one by one.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So obviously the Toronto Blue Jays sort of have a funny system just because of the travel restrictions. You've got the major league team playing right now in Florida, and I think they're planning on moving up to Buffalo. So you're sort of in this unique place among minor league teams where you're displaced to start out the season. Are there any sort of precedents that you're looking at, or examples from the past that you can draw on to sort of have this experience of playing at least the start of the season, potentially, hopefully not the full season for you, in a different ballpark?
I mean, I think for all of us, and I can probably speak for a lot of the players and staff, it's just this last year has thrown a lot of curveballs at us. I think it kind of prepared us and saw what happened with the Blue Jays last year, having to play in Buffalo. I think it's also prepared us you don't know what to expect. What we do know right now is we're going to be playing here, and we can make the best of it as we can in Hillsborough. I think the toughest challenge for us is trying to figure out and map our days out. With the COVID restrictions and protocols that they have in place right now, I think it's really not so much where we're playing at that is kind of, making us a little anxious. It's more how we going to operate on a daily basis, because you're only allowed a certain amount of people in the clubhouse at one time with size. So just trying to map that out and make sure there's not a lot of crossover. I think we got it figured out here in Hillsborough pretty well. It's just a lot of unknowns going forward on the road. But in terms of, playing here or playing up in Vancouver, we're going to operate the same way. It just might look a little bit different. And I think just for anybody, I think they just want to play. I don't think they really care where it is right now. Obviously, the goal is to get back to Vancouver at some point if we can.
There's been a lot of talk around the sport and in sports more broadly about vaccinations for players and personnel. Do you know what the status is of in terms of how many folks on your expected roster have been vaccinated?
I would say right now, I think we're definitely headed in the right direction. I think we're pretty close. I'm not sure when that's going to happen. I heard 85% with the big leagues. I think they're still trying to figure it out in the minor leagues right now, but we're definitely getting close to that. And I see in the foreseeable future, I could see that us being over that very shortly. But I don't have a number off the top of my head.
Perfect. Mark, if that's it, we'll just move on. And if you have any follow-ups, we'll save them for the end. Let's keep it rolling. Let's go, Steve Erickson, Sports Wave. You're up, Steve.
He's on mute.
Steve, we're going to unmute you here. Hold on one second. There we go.
There, now you can hear me? Okay. First off, congratulations to both of you for your appointments, and Tyler, thank you very much for your time the last few days talking to you. I really appreciate it, and got a story posted up for you yesterday. I don't know whether you had a chance to read it, but I know you're a San Diego Padre fan, but we'll get you climatized to the Blue Jays too. So
For sure.
anyway, curious, Donnie, when you started out, the mistakes you made as a youngster growing up, do you find some of the young players coming up through the system now making the same mistakes? And if you do, how will you rectify some of the mistakes that they made just by sheer talking to them and tell them what's going on?
Yeah, I will say, like, when I first started coaching again, I had to really bring myself back to A-ball and the stuff that the mistakes I made, and it's pretty common. It's like I think patience is the best word I could describe it. There's a lot of patience that has to be with these guys. You got to remember the game's a little bit different now. When I played, it was more like they pounded in fundamentals to you. We're all over you about it. Now a lot of stuff is personal, swing stuff, pitching stuff. So the game is still being ingrained in a lot of these guys. And so just being patient and understanding that they have a lot to learn. There is a lot of conversations. There's a lot of conversations during games. There's a lot of conversations during work during the day. It's just you got to put yourself in their shoes and, like, what do they do and don't know. And I think you learn that pretty quickly with these guys. But I will say, though, there is a lot of learning. There's a lot of room for improvement. But there are daily conversations when it comes to that.
It's a lot more technical too. I mean, you've got the technology with all the internet now, and that of course changed. So the players can actually see their mistakes right up front.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the technical stuff too is very individualized. I would say they're trying to all improve in their own weaknesses, and so that does take away from the actual, like, learning the game aspect a little bit, just because they're so focused on what they need to get better at. Individualized, like, they know what they need to do. Like, we have meetings as an organization, even with them, and so we agree upon stuff that they need to get better at, and we build action plans off that on a daily basis that we do with these guys. When it comes to the game, that's on us as a staff to put them in a best position to, when the game does start, that we prepare them the best we can with team fundamentals or even advanced meetings that we have, just so they can go out there and show that all the work they put in has they've improved and they're ready to go.
The one thing we've always noticed dealing with the young athletes up here is families are so important for the young kids nowadays, the young players coming through the system. How close does the organization work with the players, and if they've got family issues that you have to deal with? Because at times you've probably got to be like their dad.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's why it's important to build trust with these players from the get-go. Sometimes it's not even about baseball anymore. It's about, their own personal lives. And that's for us to identify those things. Obviously, we have a ton of resources within the Blue Jays that allow them to feel comfortable and have those conversations with the people that are best suited for that. But, as a manager, I have an open door policy. Like, I don't want to feel like they can't talk to me or any staff member, but definitely family takes precedent over anything else. And there's times for that when we just say baseball is not even the front, it's not on the front burner right now. Like, we got to take a back seat and see what's going on with you. And if you want to talk, I definitely want to help out.
And lastly, before I go and let you carry on with everyone else, what was the biggest challenge you had going from a player to the management position that you're in now?
I would just say toning back from who I was as a player. I was a very determined, very focused, and I didn't like failing. I think that's the one thing I had to learn the most as a hitting coach was just being, like I said before, being patient, understanding with where they're at, and I've had my bad days before and my good days, and just being patient with these guys, because it's never going to be perfect every day. So it's just learning patience all over again.
All right. Thanks, Donnie. Appreciate your time. And Tyler, thank you for organizing and doing this. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, Steve. Thank you very much. All right, let's keep it rolling. Niall, C's Plus Baseball, you're up. Another mute. Hold on one sec. Here we go.
There we go. Okay. There we go. Sorry about that. Okay, great. So we're good to go. Tyler, just want to say congratulations on the job and thanks for allowing me to take part in this media call. And Donnie, congratulations on the job and maybe just let's talk about your coaching staff first off. What are you expecting out of them? Ryan Wright, your hitting coach, and Antonio Caceres. What can you tell us about your coaching staff for 2021?
Yeah, I mean, actually, Antonio is in Florida right now, so we got Phil Kandari here filling in for him. But I will say that we have a great staff. There's a lot of honestly, there's a lot of guys that don't have much experience in pro ball right now, and it doesn't mean that they don't have coaching experience at all. It's just first in pro ball, but we mesh well. We collaborate well. I can't even tell you how many times in spring training we've gotten together and just bounced ideas off each other, and it's created trust. We created a good environment and culture, I think, within the staff and the players that have bought into. I think, even though their lack of experience in pro ball, I think that they have a lot of good knowledge for these guys, especially Ryan. Ryan's very sound with his knowledge of what the swing looks like and can help a player on a daily basis in the cage. Phil, just talking with him, this past week more, just very mental, can help a lot of these young guys through the struggles that, I think a lot of it now is, what the work they put in, the players do is a lot of physical. And so like the mental stuff kind of gets looked over a little bit. And so having a pitching guy there that can really lock these guys back in when things aren't going well during the game is huge. Taylor Hill played a little bit in the big leagues, first year coaching again. So there's a lot of guys on this staff that, when it comes to experience, there's really not much right now, but I'll tell you what, they do know their stuff. It's just they got to get their feet wet in pro ball.
Also wanted to get your thoughts on basically the whole minor league restructuring. A lot of teams got chopped off, 42, I believe the number was, and playing in the smallest league with just 6 teams. What are your thoughts on the restructuring and what it's going to be like playing just 5 other teams?
It's wild, especially our league, playing five teams. We're going to get very familiar with teams really fast. It's going to be a challenge because you're going to have so much info on the teams that you play consistently over and over again. Sometimes it works well, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the team's going to have your number all year. I think it's one of those things you're just got to get used to. I actually don't mind the 6 days on, 1 off. At least we have an idea of when our off days are, and so we can kind of plan around that, especially with the pitching. So we can push guys, maybe push them that extra inning or two in the weekend, because we know they're going to get rest on Monday. Or even like with catchers and position players, just really pushing them to be in the lineup every day if we can, knowing that they're going to have that rest day on Monday. It's tough. It is tough, but the only saving grace right now is I don't think our travel schedule is that bad, honestly, compared to when I was in AA in 2019. I mean, I think we had 5 teams that were 10 plus hours. So it was bus rides, they were taxing, but looking at this one, it doesn't look that bad at all.
Also want to get your thoughts on playing games at Ron Talkin Field. How do you think the field's going to play for you guys, and how do you make the adjustments?
Yeah, I mean, we're actually going to have our first workout today there, so it's going to be interesting. I played on turf before. Obviously, I played on the old stuff, so this is way different. Hopefully, it's more knee friendly on our guys compared to the old stuff. But I think it allows you to play faster and more aggressive. I think and especially balls in the gap, especially the infielders. I think infielders are going to have to get used to not getting into the turf laziness at times when you know that you're going to get a hop, a specific hop, and it's going to be a little bit easier than dirt because you don't have to worry about it hitting a hole or anything like that. It's going to play a little bit different, and I'm curious to get on. I really want to get on and see how things play out because I've never been to this field. I know it's the newer turf style, but it should be interesting though. But I think we're going to enjoy it.
How excited are you to finally get to manage after things were put on hold in 2020 when you were supposed to be with Dunedin? So you were supposed to be at that level anyway, and it just kind of works out that you'll still be at high A.
Yeah, I'm beyond excited. There's only so much Zoom coaching you can do throughout a year. No, super excited to get out there and grind it out with the guys and see what we can do. I feel like this year has prepared me. I think that's the biggest thing is like, I think I went into spring training last year thinking I had it locked down and had a good idea what was going to happen. But then I think when I sat back and go, you know what, you weren't as prepared as you you thought you were. I think this last year has really helped me get more situated and definitely organized. Definitely excited going forward.
Okay, I think that's all the questions I have. If anybody else wants to weigh in.
Thanks, Niall. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Appreciate that. Let's keep it going. Greg Stoker, Minor League Sports Report. Greg, the floor is yours. We'll get him unmuted here in a second. There we are. Nope, not just yet. Let's get Greg going. There he is.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you for having me, and thank you again for Coach for spending this. We go through my questions because about half of them have already been asked. Okay, now going. Basically, during your playing days, after a year with the Baltimore Orioles, you were signed with the Florida Marlins, called up pretty quickly. Within 2 weeks, you hit a walk-off home run to win the game. I was wondering, how do your experiences as a player help inspire the young kids you have today?
I think, for me, I think that helped out was the more versatile you can be, honestly. I think that was what helped me was playing multiple positions. But there's like hundreds of people that could do that are the same as you, getting them to understand that you got to separate yourselves. You don't want to fall in the trap of being like everybody else. So what can you do to allow you to do that? So just being able to really have those conversations on, what can you do as a player to get better every day and to really stick out compared to other guys that are similar to you. I think that's what allowed me to play 5+ years in the big leagues. Was I didn't do anything great, but I just did some things better than a lot of other guys. And I don't think it's just baseball either. I think it's a lot of clubhouse stuff. You don't want a guy to come in, it's a cancer in the clubhouse. So just really preaching, being a good teammate, doing the little things right, and just showing up every day, being prepared to play as a bench guy, just keep pushing. That's the one thing I really talk to these guys about.
Okay, this is touched on earlier. You were named a manager for the Dunedin Blue Jays last year. Then the pandemic hit. What was the season like for you after that?
A lot of communication with guys, a lot of unsureness of what was going to happen with the players and staff. We didn't know if a lot of questions. I think it was a lot of making the players feel better about the situation. Didn't know if they're going to get paid for a while because we didn't know what the season was going to be like. Kind of working with plans to make sure that just being prepared for the unknown the whole time at home. Creating plans and work for them to do on their own when they couldn't go anywhere. It was difficult. It was just a lot of phone calls and a lot of Zoom calls to try to help these players, regardless of the situation, get better and stay prepared. That's what a lot of the summer was like last year. Obviously, after the regular, if we had a season when that was over, it was preparing for camps. We're going to have them. We were lucky enough to have a couple where the guys were able to go out there and show up and do some work. But it was a lot of phone call coaching and making sure the players were informed and helping any way we could.
Again, this was touched on earlier. Last year for 2020, even though it didn't happen on the field, you already were teamed with Antonio, and if I pronounce this wrong, I apologize, Antonio Caceres and Taylor Hill. How much were you able to get to know each other last year?
Oh, we talked a lot. I think that was the saving grace of last year, is being able to really get to know coaches, because it was a consistent communication with each other and not have to worry about playing games. I think it was just allowed us to get a little bit more formal with each other. because during the season, like you know each other and you're definitely in the trenches together every day, but you don't get to know each other on a personal level sometimes just because everybody's doing their own thing. You know, obviously I'll have a really close communication and a relationship with the pitching coach, hitting coach, and all that, but I think it's allowed me to do it a little bit, expand on that a little bit more, just because I didn't have to worry about preparing for a game every day. So we talk a lot. It actually was a growing moment for our relationship throughout the whole year.
The last I was able to check, your roster is still being put together. I think you've got about almost half of the players, but the rest are still filling in. How much time do you normally get with the players before the first game of the season?
I would say a lot of the guys that are going to be on the team were mostly in my working group during spring training anyways. We wanted to make sure that, you know, with the shortened spring training this year, we got as much time as we could with our guys that we're possibly going to have. Obviously, it was a little difficult at times just because the alt site pulled, you know, added and subtracted players. So sometimes we got some guys taken away from us. But I would say on the most part of the 30 guys that we're going to have here, I've had 90% of them most of the spring training.
Greg, I'll stop you for just a moment because I want to make sure we get to our last representative. And then when we open it up to follow-up questions, we'll make sure we can follow up with any remainder. Donnie, if it's okay, if we keep you for an extra 10 to 11:40 before Zoom kicks us off, that would be really helpful. So appreciate that. So without further ado, last but certainly not least, batting sixth with the bases loaded. Let's get Doug, futurebluejays.com. Doug, go ahead and unmute yourself and get it going for Donnie.
Well, Tyler, thank you. I was a bottom of the lineup kind of guy when I played, so glad to see nothing's changed. Tyler, Donnie, before we get started, I'm here in Southern Ontario, and it's a Midwest, early Midwest League kind of day here. I'm just turning my volume down, sorry. And it's with the pandemic and everything else, it's been really hard as somebody who follows the minor leagues, the Blue Jays farm system, and writes about minor league baseball. It's really been hard to be feeling it in the last couple of months. Just talking to you guys and hearing the questions from everybody else, I'm feeling a little rejuvenated. So I really appreciate that. So I thank you both for that. Donnie, first question. I'll try to come at you really quick with them because I know your time is probably limited. The guys who played in Dunedin in 2019, they had a challenging year because they didn't really have a home. At least you have something of a home base this year, but what do you think are some of the biggest challenges you're going to face in this very unique situation as a manager?
I would just say, you know, we're trying to get as comfortable as possible and as quickly as possible as we get here. I think that's why it's important to get as many workouts as possible and we're here before the season starts, just to get familiar, because we're going to go on the road right away. So it's just at least getting some comfort here. So when we do come back from the road trip, we know what to expect and we've been there. And so it's just rolling right back into it again. I think the biggest challenge for us as a team and as a staff is just trying to schedule a day. It's very hard right now, just because with the protocols they have in place, we have to really map out our days. And in terms of when bus times get here, how many guys are in a building at one time, just making sure that we don't have any crossover that will cause some issues, and just want to make sure that our days flow well. Yeah, so I think for us, it's just trying to get familiar with everything, just because we had it so good in Florida where we had such a large amount of space at the new complex that there wasn't really any issues. But now it's just dealing with the smaller setups here, and just trying to get a flow. I think it's just trying to get a flow and trying to get familiar with what our day would look like. I think we got it mapped out pretty well in these first few days, but I think going on the road is going to be the biggest challenge.
Okay, and kind of building off of that and building with the question that was asked earlier in your response, you talked about last year, in a sense, kind of like a sabbatical for an educator, and you said you took the year to prepare better. In what ways did you prepare better?
Just being organized.
Mm-hmm.
I've been I consider myself organized, but I describe it as kind of messy organized. It makes sense to me. It might not make sense to other people. And if you came in and you looked at my stuff, you're like, this guy has no idea and he's not prepared. But if I go in there and have a really good idea, it's crystal clear to me. But it was more being organized in a way that everybody has an understanding. So staff gets it, players understand it. It's just being more prepared in the sense of what I want. I think for me, it's just being organized where the staff knows exactly what to expect and what to do. So it makes it, and if the players have any questions, it makes it look like we know what we're doing. I think that was the thing last year going into spring training. It was like we're kind of all over the place a little bit, but it works. But I think we prepared a little bit better and a little more put together this year, and it's flowing a heck of a lot better than it did last year.
It really helps to have everybody singing from the same choir book.
Absolutely.
Last question I want to ask, just somebody myself, I have background working with international high school students, which, as you can imagine, are pandemic. It's taken a little bit of a hit right now. But I'm just curious to know, from having interacted with some of the Dominican prospects myself, from both the Blue Jays and the Phillies organization in Florida, how much of an advantage is it for them to really ramp up with their proficiency in English, especially when they hit full season ball? I know we don't all learn things at the same time, that's for sure. Some people are better at acquiring languages than others, but how much of an impact is their ability to speak English and learn it on their overall functioning?
Yeah, I mean, it's big time. I think the one thing the Blue Jays do well is offer that, having it there for them to learn. During the spring training, they had English class every day after the workout on Zoom. We had an English teacher for them, and they were great. And it's funny because a lot of these guys, like you talked to them 2 years ago, they didn't really know anything, and I could have a full-on conversation now in English with some of these guys. But at the same time, too, it's as us, as people that speak predominantly English, it should be on our responsibility to learn a little bit of Spanish too. Just because it's just not fair. Like it works both ways. Like, yeah, they're going to come to the United States and it's mainly English, and then communication with a lot of American coaches is English, but we got to learn some things to help us communicate with them well, even if they're not 100% confident with their English right now. So it works both ways, but we definitely do it right. We offer it to them. They're taking advantage of them, and some of them are learning it really fast.
Okay, thanks very much, and best of luck this year. And thanks again, Tyler.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Doug. All right, y'all, we are up near the end of our time, but if anybody has any follow-up questions, go ahead and just sorry to make you raise your hand like it's school, but just put your hand up and I can unmute me. I can see just about everybody on my screen. And if we don't have any follow-ups, we can say thanks to Donnie, but does anybody have any follow-up questions or additional comments they'd like to make? It looks like we got Steve Erickson, SportsWave. I'm going to ask to unmute you there, Steve, and then you'll do it yourself. So Steve, go ahead with your follow-up.
Only have one question. Sports nowadays it's pretty predominant a development league coming up through this level of play right now, which is fair for everybody. Development for the players, development for yourself, everyone else with the organization, as it is with the umpires. What type of rapport do you think you'll have with the umpires, and how do you mix that? Because I know as a player going back with hockey and different sports years back, sometimes that doesn't always mesh, and sometimes it's like a marriage gone wrong. So how will you work that
out? When it comes to are you talking about the relationship with umpires, or yeah. I think it's important to respect each other. I think sometimes we're so segregated with them that they're the enemy. So it's my job to get close to them and understand them, because if we do have issues, let me take control of it. Obviously, I don't want a player to disrespect an umpire, and next he's tossed out of the game, and then we're shorthanded now. But I think it goes both ways. I think getting to know the umpires, respecting them, just because it always feels like it's just so one-sided. It almost feels like the umpires are just the evil empire, So it's just it's not as bad as you think. There's a lot of conversations that happen during the game, and even in spring training, you're just talking to umpires nonstop. It always seems like we're just so far apart sometimes, and there's a lot of arguing just because of one call. But there are a lot of mutual respect with them, and it's just continue to respect them, because I think once you show respect and get to know their names, I think that's the biggest thing, is like players understand, just like how they would call you your first name, please call them by their first name. They will respect you a heck of a lot more when you do that. But it's just it's fine. It's just, I think, just getting to know them and respecting each other more than anything.
Okay, good. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Steve. Looks like we've got one last question from Mark. So Mark, go ahead and unmute yourself, and you can be our last question for Donnie today.
All right. Yeah. Thanks. Just wondering where players are going to be set up in terms of where they're going to be staying. Do they have host families? Do they have hotel rooms? What's the setup there?
With COVID, host families, you can't do that this year. They don't want anybody outside the bubble. So right now, hotel's an option. The tough part here is trying to find short-term leases at apartments that are affordable for players. But I know that the Blue Jays and the Vancouver Canadians are doing everything they can to create relationships with apartment places around here and hotels to make it affordable for the guys, so they're not feel like they're playing for free this year. I think that's the most difficult part, is just making sure that they can still make a living, and it's difficult, but I think we'll find a way. The hotel's been great here that we're staying at right now. They're working with us. It seems like a lot of guys are probably going to go that route, just because everything's taken care of here. But yeah, it's still trying to figure out that scenario when it comes to apartments, but I think we somewhat got it figured out right now, and we'll be fully figured out pretty soon.
All right, great. Thanks.
Awesome, everybody. Thank you so much for everybody's time. Donnie, thank you for joining us. This is the first of a couple of these along the way this season, especially given the unprecedented nature of 2021. We're going to try and do everything we can to get as close to what a normal media operation would be. So to everybody who joined us, thank you very much. Donnie, thanks for being here. Happy first workout day. We're getting the boys going tonight. Not under the lights, because of course we stay light so late at this time of year, but looking forward to seeing those C's on the field for the first time in 20 months.
All right, thank you, guys.
All right, everybody, have a great one. I'll send a recording of this meeting out to everybody who's on the call, just for your reference. And most importantly, happy Friday. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, Tyler.
Thanks, Tyler.
All right.
Thanks, Tyler. Thanks, Donnie.
Thanks, Tyler.
You're welcome.
Take care.